The beer incident. The Intergalactic Science Summit was supposed to be boring. That's what Ambassador TechSilk had promised the Galactic Security Council. Just another routine gathering of the brightest minds across 17 species, sharing theoretical research that wouldn't have practical applications for at least a century. Nobody expected Dr. Nadia Petrov to show up. The human quantum engineer arrived late to the main presentation, coffee in one hand and a datapad in the other, her curly black hair escaping from what humans called a messy bun. She slipped into the back row of the grand amphitheater, next to a particularly nervous Valaxian who immediately extended his defensive spines. On stage, Chief Scientist Rex 427 of the Hive Collective was explaining why the quantum stabilization crisis on Proxima Centauri b would take at least 50 years to solve. His mandibles clicked rhythmically as he outlined the mathematical impossibilities. The quantum cascade failure cannot be prevented, Rex 427 announced, his iridescent wings fluttering with academic certainty. The calculations require processing power beyond our current capabilities. We estimate the colony will need to be evacuated within 3 standard months. Dr. Petrov's hand shot up. The Valaxian next to her nearly jumped out of his exoskeleton. Yes. Rex 427's compound eyes focused on the human with mild irritation. The question period is not until... Sorry, Petrov interrupted, standing up. But I think you're approaching this all wrong. The quantum cascade isn't a processing problem, it's a resonance issue. You're trying to calculate every possible quantum state when you should be harmonizing them instead. The amphitheater erupted in murmurs. 3 different species activated their universal translators, certain they must have misheard. Harmonizing quantum states. Rex 427's antennae twitched in what his species considered a polite scoff. Dr. Petrov, with all due respect, what you're suggesting violates at least 7 fundamental laws of physics. Only if you think about them one at a time, Petrov replied, pulling up a holographic display from her datapad. Look, it's like tuning a guitar. Each string vibrates at its own frequency, but they work together to make music. Quantum states are the same way. That's absurd, a mechanoid scientist buzzed from the front row. Quantum mechanics cannot be compared to primitive human musical instruments. Petrov grinned, handed her coffee to the startled Valaxian, and started walking toward the stage. Want to bet? Give me access to the colony's quantum core for 1 hour. If I can't stabilize it, I'll formally apologize and submit myself for psychiatric evaluation. Ambassador TechSilk, who had been dozing in the diplomatic section, suddenly became very alert. His tentacles curled in alarm as he recognized the gleam in the human's eye. He'd seen that look before, right before another human had redesigned a faster-than-light drive using something called duct tape and WD-40. Dr. Petrov, TechSilk called out, his voice modulator pitching higher with anxiety. Perhaps we should consult with the council before. Oh, come on. What's the worst that could happen? Petrov reached the stage, cracking her knuckles. Someone hold my beer. I'm about to show you how we do quantum harmonics on Earth. The words echoed through the amphitheater. Several scientists fainted. Someone activated the emergency broadcast system. In orbit, 3 different species ships immediately began warming up their engines. The last thing Ambassador TechSilk saw before passing out was Dr. Petrov pulling up the quantum core's schematics and muttering something about, it's just like that old game Guitar Hero, but with more dimensions. The galaxy would never be the same. Grand Councillor Zixtol's crystalline form pulsed with alarming shades of orange as they stared at the emergency broadcast. The Galactic Security Council chamber, normally a model of order and serenity, had descended into chaos. Holographic displays showed live feeds from Proxima Centauri b, where Dr. Nadia Petrov was currently violating several laws of physics and possibly a few laws of reality. Would someone, Zixtol's voice resonated through the chamber, please explain how we let a human anywhere near a quantum core? First speaker Mira 9, a towering construct of living plasma contained within an environmental suit, floated forward. The situation evolved rather quickly, Grand Counselor. Dr. Petrov's credentials were impeccable, and there was no indication she would attempt this. On the main display, Petrov could be seen connecting her datapad to the colony's quantum core interface. She appeared to be humming something called Stairway to Heaven, while reconfiguring the laws of quantum mechanics. We've documented 47 Hold My Beer incidents in the past solar cycle alone, chittered Security Director Venet, their mandibles clacking anxiously. Everything from reversing entropy in a localized space to teaching a black hole to play something called ping pong. When will we learn? The Chamber's AI chimed in with its daily threat assessment. Warning: human innovation event in progress. Calculating potential outcomes. Error: variables exceed computational limits. Recommended action: panic. We're not going to panic, Zixtal declared, even as their crystalline structure vibrated with stress fractures. We're going to handle this with dignity and... Grand Counselor. A junior aide burst into the chamber, their tentacles twisted in knots. Dr. Petrov has just described quantum entanglement as spicy Wi-Fi and is attempting to... I can't believe I'm saying this. She's trying to make quantum states jam together like a rock band. 3 council members simultaneously engaged their personal shield generators. A hive mind representative split into its component parts out of sheer anxiety. What are her chances of success? Mira 9 asked, their plasma form flickering with concern. The chamber's AI processed for a moment. Based on all known laws of physics, 0%. Based on previous human Hold My Beer incidents, approximately 97.3%. Warning: human success rate increases by 0.4% with each passing minute of confident humming. On the display, Petrov had pulled up what appeared to be an ancient Earth gaming interface called Rock Band and was using it to visualize quantum harmonics. Several leading physicists in the observation room could be seen quietly updating their resumes. We need to establish new protocols, Zixtal declared, that a voice steady despite their increasingly unstable crystal matrix. From now on, any human utterance of the phrase "hold my beer" must trigger an immediate galaxy-wide alert. All scientific institutions must be equipped with emergency human containment protocols. With all due respect, Grand Counselor, Vanek interjected, the last time we tried to contain human innovation, they perceived it as a challenge and invented what they called Parker physics. We're still finding temporal anomalies from that incident. The council chamber fell silent as Dr. Petrov's voice came through the feed. Hey, check this out. If you treat quantum superposition like a guitar solo, you can actually make particles harmonize across dimensional barriers. Pretty cool, right? Multiple alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. The A's voice took on an unusually emotional tone. Alert. Human is applying music theory to quantum mechanics. Reality coherence at 87% and dropping. Detecting unauthorized modifications to fundamental forces. Also, is anyone else hearing a sick bass line in the quantum field? Stars help us all, Zixtal whispered, the crystal form now displaying colors previously unknown to physics. She's not just fixing the quantum cascade, she's teaching quantum particles to dance. The universe, it seemed, was about to learn some new moves. The challenge. Dr. Nadia Petrov stood before the quantum core's control interface, her fingers dancing across holographic controls like a pianist at a concert. Around her, a team of the galaxy's most prestigious scientists watched in various states of horror, amazement, and existential crisis. The probability matrices are completely destabilized, warned Dr. Elix, a neuronet scientist whose cybernetic implants were beginning to smoke. You can't just make quantum states synchronize like a musical ensemble. Watch me, Petrov grinned, pulling up another visualization layer. See, your problem was thinking of quantum states as separate things. They're more like different instruments in an orchestra. Sometimes you need the viola section to take a break, while the cellos do their thing, you know. A holographic representation of Proxima Centauri B's quantum field floated above the core. What should have been a chaotic mess of probability clouds was slowly beginning to pulse in rhythm, like a cosmic light show synchronized to music only Petrov could hear. "This defies all known laws of physics," protested Professor Kefrix, their tentacles curling into mathematical symbols of distress. "You cannot simply tell quantum particles to groove together." "Sure you can," Petrov replied, making an adjustment that caused several reality monitors to briefly display jazz notation instead of numbers. "They're already dancing, we just never gave them the right beat." The quantum harmonics she had introduced was spreading through the colony's systems. Emergency alerts began shutting themselves off. Climate controls stabilized. Even the artificial gravity seemed to acquire a subtle swing. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Elix, whose implants had given up trying to calculate the probabilities and were now playing Earth music videos instead. "The quantum cascade, it's reversing itself." Petrov nodded, still focused on her work. "Yeah, turns out quantum particles are like teenagers at a party. Try to force them to behave, they rebel. Give them a good rhythm to follow, they'll organize themselves." In orbit, surveillance satellites recorded an unprecedented phenomenon. The quantum field around the entire colony was pulsing in perfect harmony, creating what one poetic sensor operator would later describe as the universe's first quantum jazz concert. But the mathematical complexity. Kefrix's tentacles were now tied in knots that violated several geometric principles. The processing power required to calculate these interactions would take our most advanced computers millennia. "That's because you're trying to math your way through it," Petrov explained, adding what appeared to be a quantum bass line to the harmonics. "Sometimes you need to feel a rhythm instead of counting the beats. Watch this, hey, quantum field. Drop the bass." The entire facility vibrated as subatomic particles throughout the colony synchronized in what could only be described as a quantum dance party. Warning systems struggled to categorize the phenomenon, finally settling on ARRR, Fovoisixis to Vuenkild to Thuoenputa. "There we go," Petrov said, stepping back from the controls with satisfaction. "Quantum cascade stabilized, colony saved, and bonus, I think I just taught electrons how to breakdance. Somebody want to get me my beer back? I'm kind of thirsty after reorganizing reality." The scientific observation team stared in silence, their various sensory organs trying to process what they had just witnessed. Several of them were quietly updating their understanding of universe mechanics to include concepts like quantum groove and subatomic rhythm. Dr. Petrov, Professor Fricks finally managed, their tentacles slowly unknotting. "What exactly did you do?" "Oh, she shrugged, checking readings on her datapad, just reminded the universe that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to dance with it. Now, who's up for karaoke? I bet we could get some really interesting effects if we taught quarks to sing." In the Galactic Security Council chamber, the AI monitoring the situation had finally given up trying to file a coherent report and was instead playing "Another One Bites the Dust" through the emergency broadcast system. The universe, it seemed, had gained a new appreciation for human music theory. Ripple effects. News of Dr. Petrov's quantum harmony solution spread across the galaxy faster than light, which, thanks to her modifications, now occasionally traveled with a slight rhythmic bounce. The repercussions were immediate and far-reaching. The Galactic Science Academy's main research facility on Centaurus Prime was in chaos. Students were submitting papers with titles like "The Musical Theory of Everything" and "Why Quantum Physics Just Needs to Chill and Feel the Beat." Professor Xylith, head of the quantum physics department, had locked himself in his office after a human graduate student suggested treating antimatter like a percussion section. "Have you seen the latest from Earth?" Professor Xylith's assistant asked through the door, their bioluminescent patches flashing with excitement. "They're opening a new research division, the Institute of Quantum Choreography." A muffled sob was the only response. Meanwhile, at the Proxima Centauri b colony, Dr. Petrov's improvements had produced unexpected side effects. The quantum-harmonized systems were operating at 300% efficiency, but maintenance workers reported that the colony's machinery had developed a tendency to work better when music was playing. The fusion reactors, in particular, showed a distinct preference for classic rock. "I don't understand," complained Chief Engineer Telar, watching as a row of quantum processors spontaneously synchronized their processing cycles to Bohemian Rhapsody. "How are we supposed to write maintenance protocols for systems that respond to musical taste?" Dr. Petrov, who had been called back to consult, just shrugged. "Hey, at least they have good taste. Be grateful they're not into death metal. You should see what that does to the space-time continuum." The human approach to problem-solving was spreading. Reports flooded in from across known space. On Rigel VII, a human mechanic fixed a 1,000-year-old alien artifact by treating it like a temperamental DJ mixer. The artifact now worked perfectly, but occasionally played Earth disco music. In the Pleiades sector, a human botanist revolutionized terraforming by introducing plants to good vibes-only environments. The resulting forests grew 3 times faster than normal and seemed to sway even without wind. The Mechanoid Collective reported that their cybernetic systems were evolving to include what they termed groove protocols. Their entire species had begun moving with a subtle rhythm. Back at the Galactic Security Council, emergency sessions had become a daily occurrence. The Chamber's AI had developed a habit of providing background music appropriate to the level of crisis being discussed. "The situation is getting out of hand," declared Security Director Venlik, as the final countdown played softly in the background. "Humans are approaching every problem like it's a dance party waiting to happen. The fundamental forces of the universe weren't meant to boogie." First speaker Mira 9's plasma form rippled thoughtfully. "Perhaps we've been too rigid in our approach. Dr. Petrov's success suggests there are aspects of reality we never considered because we were too focused on pure mathematics." Too focused on mathematics. Vanuk's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. "Next, you'll suggest we should teach elementary particles to freestyle." Actually, a junior researcher interrupted, their scales shifting nervously. "There's a human team at CERN doing exactly that. They're calling it quantum flow, the particle physics rap battle." The Chamber's AI helpfully began playing hip-hop beats. Grand Councillor Zixtol, whose crystalline form had finally stabilized into a sort of resigned shimmer, raised an appendage for silence. Perhaps we need to accept that the universe is more flexible than we imagined. After all, the humans' methods, while unorthodox, are producing results." "Results?" Venlik chittered. "They're teaching the building blocks of reality to dance. What's next? Quantum karaoke? Subatomic slam poetry?" As if in answer, an urgent message flashed across the Chamber's displays. Dr. Petrov had just published a new paper, "Towards a Grand Unified Theory of Everything. Why the Universe Just Wants to Dance." The AI, with what seemed like entirely too much enthusiasm, began playing Stayin' Alive, the protocol. The Galactic Security Council's new Hold My Beer response protocol was formally ratified on what humans would call a Tuesday. The document, spanning over 1,000 pages, was the first official acknowledgement that human innovation required its own category of crisis management. Section 1, Grand Councillor Zixtol read to the assembled representatives, their crystalline form gleaming under the chamber's lights. Upon detection of the phrase "hold my beer" or any equivalent expression indicating imminent human innovation, all nearby scientific facilities must immediately activate their reality stabilization fields. First speaker Mira 9's plasma form flickered with amusement. "I particularly enjoy Section 7, regarding the mandatory installation of music detection systems in all quantum research facilities." The protocol had been necessitated by a series of increasingly creative human solutions to supposedly impossible problems. The latest incident involved a human engineer named Marcus Wong, who had solved a complex temporal paradox by, in his words, treating time like a DJ mix. The Wong incident must not be repeated, Security Director Vanek insisted, their mandibles clicking rapidly. We're still finding temporal loops where Tuesday afternoon keeps remixing itself with Friday evening. The Chamber's AI, which had developed a distinctive personality since Dr. Petrov's quantum harmonics breakthrough, helpfully display footage from various human innovation events. Each clip showed the same pattern: a human confidently handing their beverage to a bystander, followed by reality being cheerfully rearranged. Notice, Vanek continued, pointing with a trembling appendage, how the beverage transfer appears to be a crucial component of their reality-altering processes. Ours and anthropologists suggest it may be a ritual-focusing technique. Or perhaps, suggested Council Member Fithrix, their tentacles forming thoughtful patterns, the act of holding someone's beverage creates a social contract that enhances human probability manipulation. The discussion was interrupted by an urgent alert from the Andromeda Research Station. A human physicist had just uttered the phrase, "Watch this, y'all," which the protocol classified as a hold my beer variant, before attempting to, as the report stated, teach black holes to harmonize in 4-part harmony. Deploy the response team, Zixtal ordered warily. And someone please check if reality is still consistent with our last backup. The protocol's most controversial section dealt with the classification of human beverages. Coffee was now categorized as a Type 3 reality lubricant. Energy drinks were labeled probability accelerants, and something called Monster Energy was officially designated as too dangerous to classify. We must also address, Mira 9 added, that plasma swirling anxiously, the increasing number of non-human scientists attempting to replicate human methods. 3 mechanoid researchers nearly crashed their quantum processors trying to understand what humans call vibing with the universe. The Chamber's displays showed footage from various research facilities where alien scientists were awkwardly attempting to replicate human innovation techniques. A particularly amusing clip featured a group of hive mind researchers trying to learn the electric slide in hopes of better understanding human probability manipulation. The protocol must be clear, Zixtal declared. Any attempt to replicate human innovation methods must be preceded by at least 4 safety briefings and 1 basic dance lesson. As if to emphasize the point, the station's quantum core chose that moment to begin humming what the AI identified as "Another One Bites the Dust," a side effect of Dr. Petrov's harmonics that had spread throughout galactic infrastructure. "There is one more thing," Vanek added hesitantly. "We've detected a new trend among human scientists. They started saying 'hold my coffee' instead of 'hold my beer.' Our predictive models suggest this variant might be even more powerful." The chamber fell silent except for the quantum core's persistent humming. Finally, Grand Councillor Zixtal spoke, their crystalline form displaying colors of resigned acceptance. "Update the protocol. And someone please make sure our reality stabilization fields are rated for caffeine-enhanced innovation acceptance." 1 standard galactic year after Dr. Petrov's quantum harmonics breakthrough, the universe had learned to dance. Not metaphorically, quite literally. The fundamental forces had developed what humans called groove, and physics textbooks across the galaxy now included chapters on quantum rhythm theory. In the Galactic Science Academy's main auditorium, a mixed group of human and alien scientists were presenting their findings at the first-ever Conference on Harmonic Innovation Techniques, CHIT. "The evidence is undeniable," declared Dr. Sarah Chen, quantum choreographer and former ballet dancer, as she gestured to a holographic display showing synchronized particle behavior. "The universe doesn't just allow for harmony, it prefers it. We've been trying to force order when we should have been inviting it to dance." Next to her, Professor Fithrix, who had finally embraced the new paradigm after watching quarks perform what could only be described as a synchronized swimming routine, manipulated a series of quantum visualizations with their tentacles. Our joint human-alien research teams have documented over 300 successful applications of harmonic problem-solving, Kathrix announced. From terraforming to temporal mechanics, the introduction of human rhythmic principles has revolutionized every field of study. The presentation was briefly interrupted by a quantum fluctuation that caused the entire auditorium to briefly salsa dance through 7 dimensions. The audience, now used to such occurrences, simply adjusted their seats' stabilization fields and continued taking notes. In orbit above, the Galactic Security Council had established a permanent observation post dubbed the Groove Station. Its primary mission: monitoring and documenting human innovation events while maintaining what they called the Universal Rhythm Index. Another successful implementation, reported Station Commander Mira 9, their plasma form swaying slightly to the quantum background radiation, which now carried a distinct bass line. The humans have successfully taught a solar flare to redirect itself by, and I quote, showing it some smooth moves. The station's AI, which had evolved to become something of a cosmic DJ, played appropriate celebration music. Even the mechanoid observers had begun bobbing their cybernetic heads in time with the universe's rhythm. Back on Earth, Dr. Petrov was giving a guest lecture at MIT's newly established Department of Quantum Groove Studies. The lecture hall was packed with students from across the galaxy, all eager to learn the human approach to universal harmony. The key, she explained, drawing probability waves that looked suspiciously like music notes, is understanding that everything in the universe wants to be in harmony. Our job isn't to force it, it's to find the right rhythm and invite reality to join the dance. A young HiveMind student raised several appendages. But Dr. Petrov, how do we know which rhythm to use for which problem? Petrov smiled. That's the beauty of it. The universe isn't picky, it just wants to groove. Sometimes you need classical physics for a complex temporal equation. Sometimes you need jazz for a tricky quantum entanglement. And sometimes, she paused, grinning, sometimes you just need to show a black hole how to breakdance. The lecture was interrupted by an alert from the Galactic Security Council. A human terraforming team had just announced their intention to teach an entire solar system to do the wave. Several reality stabilization teams were already en route, accompanied by a dance instructor, just in case. As the alert faded, Dr. Petrov looked out at her students, human and alien alike, and saw not just the future of science, but the future of understanding itself. The universe, it turned out, had been waiting billions of years for someone to simply ask it to dance. Remember, she concluded, as the quantum field around the lecture hall hummed in perfect harmony, the next time someone tells you something's impossible, just smile, hand them your beverage of choice, and show them how the universe loves to move. In the back of the hall, the Galactic Security Council's observation drone made a note: Human Innovation Event Class O, teaching reality to dance. The drone, infected by the general mood, added a small musical note to its report, and if anyone noticed that the laws of physics had started to swing, well, that was just the universe finding its groove.